Good morning. Thank you so much for stopping by. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and if you find the content helpful, please share it on your social media networks. I'm Cassandra Mack, founder of CassandraMackMinistries.com and StrategiesForEmpoweredLiving.com. Today is Wednesday, December 9th, 2020, and it's about 11:30 in the morning here in New York City. What time is it in your neck of the woods? What are you getting into today? As for me, I am having a little yogurt and bringing you this video and then finishing up some other projects that I have to take care of today. So what's going on in your neck of the woods and what time is it wherever you are? And again, I just want to thank all of you for your support of this channel. Because of you, we are growing. So please tell your mama to subscribe, your family, your grandma, the kids, whoever. Tell them to subscribe so that we can get this channel to 50,000 and grow from there. So today we're talking about how to handle your emotions when someone is pushing your buttons. And this video is being done by request. A woman named Heather from Colorado has reached out and she asked the question, how can she handle her emotions when someone is pushing her buttons? She finds that she tends to get very aggressive. She yells, she screams, she loses it, and she doesn't want to be that way. And so she asked the question, how can she handle her emotions? So Heather, since your question is the inspiration for today's video, you're going to get a copy of my book, Master Your Mind, Mood, and Attitude in the Workplace. So you will be getting that, compliments of me. For anyone who's interested in purchasing the book, it is available along with my other books at Amazon.com. So let's jump right in. I'm going to give you 6 simple keys that you might find helpful for handling your emotions when you are being triggered, when someone is pushing your buttons. And first and foremost, you've got to know what your trigger responses are. You have to know that about yourself. And there are 4. And I call them the 4 F's: fight, flight, freeze, or forget. So how do you typically respond when somebody pushes your button and pulls your triggers? We all react to stressful events, stressful situations differently. Some of us fight. We come out real aggressively. We're ready to fight. Some of us flight. Flight means that we want to get out of there. We want to get away from the person. We want to get away from the situation. We want to get out of that space. Some of us freeze. We're like a deer in headlights. We don't know what to do, and we feel paralyzed in the moment. And then some of us forget. Not forget in terms of memory deletion, but forget in terms of overlook. Like we'll say to ourselves, this is not really worth my time, and I'm not even going to give it my energy. I'm not going to respond at all. So you're not fighting, you're not flighting, you're staying wherever you are, you're not freezing, but you're just not giving it your energy and your attention. And so how do you typically respond when someone is pushing your buttons? You've got to know that, because it's going to be difficult to manage your emotional responses if you don't know what they typically are. And you may find that sometimes you fight, you come out fighting, sometimes you flight, but what do you lean towards? What is your dominant mode in terms of when you are triggered? As for me, when I was much younger, it was fight. And there's still a little fight in me. But it was fight. You said the wrong thing, I was gearing up for fighting. And fighting doesn't always mean to physically fight, but it can mean yelling, cursing, screaming, behaving very aggressively. So you have to know that about yourself. Now I tend to be in the space of forget, overlook. So for me, most of the time, I will just assess and say, this person is not even worth my time. This situation is not worth my time. I'm not giving it my energy because I'm focused on my path and I only have a limited supply of energy. And if I was to respond to everybody who took an issue with what I said, or everybody who has a bone to pick with me, or everybody who for whatever reason just doesn't like me, I would be responding all day, every day. And so I just don't have the time, nor do I care. But you may not be in that space. And so you have to know your triggers. And so a helpful way to identify your triggers is to think about the last 3 to 4 times where somebody has said or did something and you were triggered. You felt a very intense emotion negatively. How did you respond those last 3 or 4 times? Did you gear up for a fight immediately? Like, what did you say? Did you flight? Like, I just got to get out of here. Did you freeze? Like, oh my gosh, you were like a deer in headlights and you felt paralyzed. You felt like your power was being taken away. Or did you just say to yourself, you know what? This person is not even worth my time. They're not getting 1 ounce of my good energy. And so how did you respond? Get yourself a composition notebook. Think about 3 major times in your life that you were triggered. And you can use more than 3, but 3 or 4 recent triggers, or the most recent triggers, will give you an indication of how you typically respond if you can't answer this question right away. So once you know that, right, then the second thing to do would be, when you are in the moment, when you are in a situation where somebody is triggering an intensely negative emotion in you, or triggering a feeling in you, or triggering a feeling of upset, whether that upset is anger, whether it is sadness, whatever the upset is, identify the emotion you're feeling inside your head. You're going to identify the emotion you're feeling and finish the sentence with the word because. And so this is what it would sound like. This is the self-talk that you were using inside your head. I feel sad because. I feel angry because. By you doing that, you are pinpointing the emotion that you feel. But more importantly, you're identifying why you feel that way. Because sometimes we are triggered because of something that's going on inside of us. And sometimes we are triggered because a person is disrespecting us, or they are disregarding our boundaries. And so a lot of times when people are triggered, they're triggered because of something else going on. Nobody's disrespecting them, but they may feel disrespected. So if you're dealing with an individual, for example, who struggles with issues of insecurity about anything, and you say something that triggers that feeling, that reminds them of the time that somebody did or said something to them, they're going to be triggered. But you did not personally disrespect them. You may just be having a general conversation about something, but it triggers their memory of that time when they were in a similar situation. And so by identifying the emotion that you're feeling and finishing the sentence with the word because, you not only pinpoint the emotion, but you pinpoint why you're feeling the way you're feeling. What is driving that emotion? Is unfinished business driving the emotion, or did the person disrespect you, disregard on your boundaries? They're not hearing you. And so a lot of times when a complete stranger on the internet is triggered by something, you're not disrespecting them personally. You don't know them. You're not talking to them personally. But sometimes what's happening is they are reacting off of some unfinished business in their own life. And it comes out with a lot of, sometimes it comes out with a lot of animosity. Sometimes it comes out with a lot of aggression. Sometimes it will just come out with having to have the last word and not letting something go. But then that's not your problem. And so you want to identify the emotion you're feeling and finish the sentence with the word because. That will allow you to pinpoint it. Third thing, if the person that has triggered that response in you, an intensely negative emotion, a feeling of upset, is right there with you when you are in the situation in the moment, I always recommend to pause between 5 to 60 seconds. You know how long you need. I don't know you personally, but you know yourself. And so you want to pause and in your mind count to anywhere from 5 to 60. So it would sound like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 in your own mind. Because if you are feeling a feeling of upset, and you tend to be the kind of person who comes out fighting, you may say something in the moment that when you have some time to step back and assess the situation, you might say to yourself, I wish I would have handled it a different way. So by pausing 5 to 60 seconds, you give yourself a little bit of space from the intensity of the emotion that you are feeling to calm yourself down so that you can choose your response rather than reacting off of the other person's energy and behavior. And so whether you need 5 seconds or 60 seconds. And then what you're going to do after you pause, you are going to choose the response that aligns with the outcome that you desire and the values that you hold on to. And so if the outcome is you want someone to respect your boundaries, then you are going to choose the response that aligns with setting and enforcing your boundaries. However, you are also going to think about the values you hold on to. So if you value self-control, we all have different values, then that is going to temper how you state your boundary and reinforce your boundary or enforce your boundary. And so take some time and think about that. What is the outcome? Do you want to be heard? Is that the outcome? But then you want to get into, do I want to be heard? And after I've made my point, is that the end of the conversation? Or am I going to get into a struggle for the last word, tit for tat conversation, which is a waste of time? And so you have to know your desire, and then you're going to add to that the values that you hold on to, so that when you think about your goal, this is a good example. So somebody could have a goal to make money, but then your values come into play. So if you value integrity, you are probably not going to do something illegal to make your money. But if you don't value integrity and you value money by any means necessary, then that is going to temper your decisions in relation to money. And so this is why it's not enough to just think about the outcome you desire, because a lot of people are clear on the outcome. The outcome may be, I want to set a boundary. I want to be heard. I want the individual to know that what they're saying is not true. But then your values are going to temper how you're going to get that message across. How are you going to get that message across? And if you find that the person refuses to accept your message, or they just don't care, then that is also going to temper how you respond in kind. Whether you allow the situation to escalate because they're escalating, or whether you say, I set the boundary, I've made my case, I'm not going to fight about it. So only you can decide that. 4, don't let someone else's chaos and their ill will energy, the energy of ill will, the energy of ill will. And the energy of ill will is when you know that somebody is coming for you to cause upset, to berate you, to abuse you, to verbally abuse you, to diminish your sense of self-esteem. They're coming from a place of ill will. So don't let someone else's inner chaos, they're just in a bad place, and their ill will energy pull you in the direction of inner chaos and ill will, because you have a choice in terms of your inner world. And so if you are dealing with a person who is having a reactive experience and they're reacting from a place of ill will, this is going to be hard to digest, but I'm going to say it anyway. Their ill will and their personal breakdown or their personal problem is not your problem. It is not your problem. And the clearer you become about that, it is easier to handle when somebody is trying to trigger you, or when somebody is triggered, is in a trigger space, and they want to pull you in the direction of that energy. And so you have to know not to let someone else's chaos, ill will, or even the fact that they're just coming from a different place, you can't allow them to pull you in a space that you did not sign up for. That is their problem. It is not your problem to deal with. And this is very hard because most people allow people to pull them into their problems. And so a case in point, I'll use myself as an example. Oftentimes when I'm doing videos, there are a multitude of comments. There will be people who will agree and the message will resonate. And then there will be some people who the message, for whatever reason, may not resonate. And I can't get pulled into a person who, for whatever reason, the message doesn't resonate. It is their choice to unsubscribe. It is their choice, to find a message from another YouTuber that best resonates with them. And so you cannot allow someone else to pull you. So let's say that you're having a great day at your job, and for whatever reason, you have a coworker who comes to you and they feel very strongly about a particular issue, and they state that to you. You have a choice to make right then and there. You can go back and forth with the coworker, or you can go about your day, because that is not their issue. No, that is not your issue, I should say. No matter how strongly another individual feels about whatever it is that they feel, that is not your issue. And so the clearer you are about that, the less you find that you get pulled into things that have nothing to do with you. It doesn't matter how passionately, this is what I'm getting at, somebody may feel about something. What matters is, in your life I'm talking about, what matters is the space that you want to keep yourself in. And the thing is, when someone has an opposing view, right, and you feel one way and they feel another way, you are not going to convince them to feel otherwise. So it is wasted energy to go back and forth, and they're allowed to have their opinion and you're allowed to have yours. We all don't think the same. And so make sure that you don't let someone else pull you into their energy. 5, make an effort to be self-aware and admit when you are wrong. This is key. So even for myself, there are times that I'll revisit something. It could be something with my son. It could be something with a family member or a personal friend. And I'll think about something and I'll say, you know what? I need to apologize to you about X, Y, and Z. I gave it some thought and I was wrong when ... whatever happened. I was wrong when I said, or I was wrong when I did, or when I did X, Y, and Z. And I really apologize for that from the bottom of my heart. And you want to do so sincerely, because sometimes what happens is, if we're not self-aware, we can get into struggles and arguments that are really not our own, or we can say things and we don't realize the impact of our words. And so you want to make an effort to be self-aware and to admit when you are wrong. And that takes self-awareness, and that takes reflection. And let me also say that there's a difference between admitting when you are wrong and apologizing for how someone took something. That I don't do. And so when you are wrong, it is being accountable for your behavior in the situation, being accountable for something you said or you did that you need to be accountable for. But if somebody took something you said out of context, that is their issue. And so you want to make the effort to be self-aware and admit when you are wrong. And then 6, know that you don't have to respond to everything. You don't have to respond to everything. So that is one way to manage your emotions. Someone can have an opinion of an outfit you have on. I don't like that outfit. I think that it is the ugliest outfit I've ever laid eyes on. You don't have to respond. And some people are like, well, I'm not going to let somebody just call my outfit ugly. Then you can argue all day, every day. You have a choice. But if you want to think about, am I using my time effectively? Am I stewarding my time effectively? And what's getting my focus? Why am I even being pulled into a conversation about somebody's opinion about my outfit? Are you going to change your outfit because they don't like it? So what? They don't like it. So what? Are you going to stop wearing what you're wearing because they disagree? No. And so know that you don't have to respond to everything. Even people who have strong, passionate opinions about what you're doing, what you're wearing, whatever the case may be. Because I know one of the things that you shared, Heather, is that you had a coworker who seems to comment frequently on your outfits. And understand that that's her opinion. It doesn't matter that she doesn't like what you're wearing. If she's not your supervisor who is evaluating you and filling out a performance appraisal and including appropriate dress based on, whatever the company's policy is, then this person's opinion doesn't even matter in your life. And so often we take things to heart that are not even ours to take. So just because somebody offers you an opinion does not mean that you have to be receptive to it. And it is okay for people to have different opinions, to vehemently disagree with you. And you don't have to go and you don't have to be let me say it this way. You don't have to allow the fact that someone says something to you that you find disagreeable upset your day. You have a choice in the matter. And so, Heather, I hope you found the information helpful. I hope you found the 6 simple tips helpful. And one of the scriptures that I try to live by that's been helpful for me, that I hope will be helpful for you, is the scripture that talks about being quick to hear, slow to speak, and slow to be angry, slow to anger. And it's James 1, verse 19. And it says, "Know this, my beloved, let every person be quick to hear, slow to speak, and slow to anger." And so one of the things that this means, one of the pieces of wisdom that we can take from this pertaining to handling our emotions, is that when you are quick to hear, it is really about observing everything that's going on. It is about listening. It is about observing. It is also about listening to your own internal cues in terms of what space do I want to be in? Do I want to let this person take me out of my peaceful space? And so when you are quick to hear, you are not so quick to have to speak. We don't have to say everything that comes to our mind, and we don't have to respond to everybody. Just because somebody says something to you or asks you a question doesn't mean you have to provide an answer. And you can let people handle it. And so you want to be quick to hear, slow to speak, and slow to anger. That's what James 1:19 says. So, I always share biblical principles with you, since this is a channel that shares biblical principles. And so when we're slow to anger, it really is talking about being slow to respond from a place of anger. So you may still experience the emotion of anger. Emotions are emotions. We feel what we feel. But when we are slow to anger, what that means is we're not reacting from a place of rage or hostility or not being in control of ourselves, even though we might experience feelings of upset in the moment. And it goes back to number one. You got to know your triggers. So if you know your trigger responses, how do you typically respond to stress? And, let me add this. It's important to not only know your trigger responses, meaning do you tend to be the kind of person who fights, who will flight, who will freeze, or who will forget, but also know your emotional triggers. Like, what are the kinds of things that tend to put you in a place of upset? What are the things that people can say and do that can make you upset? For some, it's disrespect. For others, it is disregarding a boundary, which is a form of disrespect. For some, it is not being heard. For some, it is not being seen. For some, it is being rejected. For some, it is somebody saying or doing something to them that reminds them of a situation from their childhood or experience from childhood. So you have to know what your emotional triggers are, not just your trigger responses, so that when you are in situations where those triggers are likely to be activated, you can decide in advance how you want to respond and what kind of person you want to be in that moment. And you get to decide, Heather. And so I hope you found this information helpful. Thank you so much for reaching out to me. I really do appreciate the questions that come in. And for those of you who ask, how can you submit your questions? The quickest way is by submitting it in the comment section of the YouTube video. And let me say that we are going in order. So it could be weeks, possibly months before I get to your situation if you do leave a comment. But I do have my team go through them. And if there's something that is coming up for quite a few people and it's a theme that resonates with a lot of people, then know that we will do those as well, and just, not use a name. And if you don't want your name used, you would say anonymous, just leave it in the comment section so that we have an idea. Some of you also reach out by our Facebook page. That's fine as well. The Facebook page is in the video description box. But do know that it could be weeks or months. I do want to give you the heads up because we are going in the order that they've been coming in. So with that being said, once again, thanks so much. Always remember, you hold the pen that writes the chapters of your life. Make your story an amazing one. And as iron sharpens iron, be the iron that sharpens somebody else's lives. Have a great day. Take care of yourselves and each other. Bye.